Good morning, everybody. It's Wednesday, December 18th. We'll start with the meeting. Oh, or not.
This is
Caroline, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And we have Chris Cookston from the Prineville Community Church to do our morning prayer. Whatever you want to do. We got a mic set up for you if you'd like.
I think that's what I was for.
Okay. Thank you. Let's pray together. Our Father in heaven, we remember that you are our creator. We thank you for a new day. We thank you for Prineville and Crook County. We ask that you would give wisdom to our commissioners and to every person who's participating in this meeting today, so that they would make decisions for what is best of the citizens of this great county. Father, we thank you for your Son, whom we celebrate during this Advent season. We love you, and we pray your blessings upon this meeting this morning. In Christ's name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thanks, bud. All right, any questions about the consent agenda?
For you, just announce that we're having an issue with it right now.
We're having an issue with Zoom right now. Do you think the owl needs to be unplugged and plugged back in, maybe?
Did on? No.
I saw it a second ago.
But maybe because she unplugged it. Well, Crook County seal came on, Sarah.
I see a light on the left, top left.
Yeah, it's on.
At least it seems a little light, though. It seems a little.
So yesterday at OFRC, I guess someone had dropped the owl and broke it. So they bought a new owl. And you could not believe the clarity of the new owl at the city hall yesterday. It was like.
So that being said, nobody dropped this owl because I don't need more clarity on my face.
Well, actually, maybe we need a new one.
Nobody needs this in HD.
No, it was pretty good. Or we go over there, sneak over and substitute this owl for their owl.
I'm totally joking. We can.
Screw that up, so. There we go.
Nice.
There.
Okay, back in the game. Okay, does anybody have any questions about the consent agenda? Oh, sorry, thank you. Public comment to start. I'm gonna go with her first and then you. Just come on up.
My name is Karen. Could you hear me?
No, I don't think
No.
I don't think it's on.
You got about to eat that thing.
My name is Karen Mikulski. I live at 3992 Northwest Stahanzik Lane, Prineville. And I just wanted to bring to your attention something that happened when I filed a complaint on a CUP for the Woodward pit for Knife River. On October 4th this year, I saw an excessive amount of fugitive dust coming from Knife River Woodward pit, migrating up and over to other properties. And this is a CUP violation. The CUP for this site, page 4, under conditions related to dust mitigation, number 13 states, the applicant shall control all fugitive dust emissions associated with all operations, extraction, processing, and storage on the site. So October 11th, I dropped off my completed Crook County Building Department, which we have to use this new form now, preliminary compliance report, along with 4 or 5 photos showing all the dust emission and how it migrated up and over to other property. October 23rd, I emailed Lewis Seals, the compliance officer, for a follow-up because I hadn't heard anything back. Lewis replied the same day, and he said a notice of complaint was sent, and he was waiting for an explanation of the circumstances which caused the excessive dust and what steps they took to mitigate it. Almost a full month later, November 20th, I emailed Lewis asking if he received a response back from Knife River. 6 days later, November 26th, Lewis emailed back saying, Knife River did respond. However, according to their records from the plant/site, they had no documented problems or equipment failures on that day. This has been documented in the case file along with your complaint and photos. I thought about this a lot and how Knife River's response was unacceptable because they really never answered Lewis' questions. There was proof of excessive dust emissions, my photos. So December 9th, I called Lewis's work cell phone and left a message saying I really needed to talk to him about the complaint and Knife River's response. I haven't heard back from him. It's been 9 days. He's never called me back or emailed. I did everything the county required for filing a complaint, and I feel they just accepted this lame response from Knife River and let it stand and filed it. Where do we go from here? This isn't the first time we've had excessive dust coming from there. Number 15 of the CUP under dust mitigation section states, the applicant shall submit a dust management plan to and obtain the required permits from the appropriate agencies, DOGAME, and Department of Environmental Quality. Does the county have a copy of this? Did Lewis look at this plan? Was Knife River compliant with this? And a new complaint is going to be, why I'm bringing this up, because I'm not going to bother if I'm not going to get a good response. 2 pine trees are dead on Knife River site. South Berm belongs to Hansegling, and they've been dead since early summer. On page 6 of the CUP conditions, it says, under all berms, the top of the South Farm lot berm will be planted when constructed with evergreen trees, and specifically, Tim Marshall decided to do with Austrian pine, 6 to 8 feet high. So it says they have to use these 6 to 8 feet, spaced 20 feet apart. Trees that die will be replaced with a similar sized tree as available. Knife River replaced some of the dead trees with very small trees. I mean, we're talking tiny. And they died too. And now there's 2 more, and I'm going to file a report, but I guess for the record, it will be helpful later on to know that they're not compliant with a lot of the CUP. But I felt that Lewis should have gotten back with him and say, you need to answer, not just say nothing happened. And also it seems like if I can't call Lewis Seals and say, hey, this is going on now, and he can't, and they make me fill this form out, and then they don't get back to like a month, they're not going to really remember. It'd be great if he could have went out there and saw all the dust, even followed up the next day would have helped a lot.
I totally agree with you that we probably could have handled that better. But I would not stop filing complaints. I think that was a conversation we've had at past meetings, that you guys had issues, but then we didn't have any internal examples of those. And so I think, I don't know, again, I always throw Will and put him on the spot, but what's the protocol on this? And if Will doesn't know, we can get back to you. I'm just not sure the specific protocol of, if Knife River gives a lame excuse, do we have the opportunity to go back and say, no, that's not acceptable, you need to respond again? I just don't know what the protocol. Will, can you weigh in on that?
Yes, of course.
So we have a process that's spelled out in our code in terms of what happens once a complaint is filed, and I can't recite it line by line, but normally what happens is a complaint is filed, a notice of complaint is sent out by the code enforcement officer, and then either, depending on the response or what the code enforcement officer finds, there may then be a notice of violation that is sent out. I can't speak to the specific facts on this in terms of what Lewis found or what the details of Knife River's response is. It sounds like Karen's seen that, and it doesn't sound like it necessarily responded directly to the questions that were asked by the county. So I think we can look into that and make sure that what we received either resolves the issue or warrants further investigation.
And Karen, I will personally follow up on that for you. And if you want to email me any of your information, that would be very helpful. Okay?
Yeah, and I appreciate you coming and bringing this up because we don't want that kind of response to be
No, that's not timely
And-
at all.
no excuse, but I know Lewis is very busy with lots of other things, but
No, they need to be following that's why we have planning commission. That's why we put those conditions on our CUPs.
yeah.
And so therefore, let me follow up for you.
Yeah, and when I do the warmth of tree, because I will, because I'm a bulldog.
Yeah, don't keep on them. We
I
100%.
don't want them to come back and say, well, we could only get what we can get as far as putting in a 1-foot tree. But I know that's not true.
No,
I'm sure
I'll
that's
just
not
know
true.
if they plant, because I've talked to the people we get them from, and if they let them know, what are you going to need for planting season so we can have a 6 to 8 foot
Yes.
for you. So I'm not, he won't, he
Yeah,
should
no.
accept that,
They're not cheap, but they're available.
I'm pretty sure.
But that's
in
not our
Oregon-
that's not anybody's problem but theirs.
I'm pretty sure in Oregon, we can find a pine tree.
That's- Thank you for your time.
Yeah, I will look into it.
I think we're here to hear as many people and as many issues you have. Yeah. Well, if it's on the same thing, let's just keep it rolling.
Adam Mikulski, I'm married to Karen. We live at 3992 Northwest Hansik. So I guess mine is more of a question because we've been here, was it October, maybe before the election? And we talked about certain things that Knife River was doing, the dewatering and all that. And I don't think we got anything back on what actually happened. You were going to, I don't know if the council, somebody was going to look into it, planning on what they're doing with what they did with dewatering, bringing in rock from the Stafford pit off of La Monta and then washing it and then not really following the CUP. We kind of went over all that stuff and we never heard anything, or maybe we should have asked, but we didn't. So I'm asking here today that maybe that's something we could look at maybe to the next meeting or whatever. I can't, on the spot, there's probably not going to be an answer to it, but I think what Karen's trying to say and what I'm trying to say is that CUP's been there from the beginning. When we did all our testimony for the Woodward pit, we said this is probably going to happen because, these things, they're not going to follow it. This is what they need to do. Okay, they didn't. The testimony on Veneer property right next door, there's testimony out there of what they did because now it's fact that they don't follow the CUP. And then we're back again here talking about the CUP. They're still not following the CUP. And I think it goes back to what Karen was saying, and maybe Will is like, there is a process, but what is the county going to do to hold these people responsible? Because I don't think they really care, and that's not their priority, but we see it every day. And I'm not looking for things to get them on. They're throwing it in our face. And so we have to address it then and bring it to the county. So I think myself, just a comment, what is the county going to do? And maybe at the next meeting, we can find out what has been done about the things we talked about perhaps in October.
Yeah, I can talk about a couple of them. I mean, I think one of them was there was a request that they don't move into the next property. And I think we were able to confirm that that wasn't going to happen until DEQ had a chance to study things. My understanding is that they've gotten the money for the individual studies. And when I was at Association of Oregon Counties about a month ago, Susie and I were both pushing very hard for the federal people to get the next level of funding. And I've talked to the governor a couple times to get that done as well. It's very frustrating to me that we are you know, it was supposed to happen, what, September, soon to be last year. And, you know, we've got some of the things that we're working and moving forward on, but there's still things that they haven't been able to fund. And I don't understand how DEQ does not have funding for projects like this. Why are they even an agency at that point? But I can be mad all day long, but what we need is somebody to get studies and figure out what the actual issues are. And at least we're starting on that beginning study of doing the, and I think, have they started testing the waters?
They have.
And so, I mean, that's a great first step. And I know it's not the end all be all because it's going to take time to go through and prove what that, from my understanding, you know, a year, maybe a little longer, to see where that issue is coming from. But that's what the end game is to prove where this issue is coming from on a third party level. And we're at least on track on that. And I'm disappointed that, again, it's taken so long, but at least we're on the right track. I think it's a great question on the ability for them to wash rock. And I think we come up with an answer on that at all, John?
Well, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but my memory is on the Woodward CUP, since the wash plant is on the industrially zoned land, it's an outright use, and there's no restriction on where the rock can come from.
But the stuff that they're actually pouring out after when they clean the ponds is going into the part that they mined already. And that's where they're dumping all that. And I think by the PUC, and don't quote me because I didn't look at it this morning, that's not allowed by the CUP, that the material that's coming out of that pond has to be from that site, not from down the street or another county or something like that. But don't quote me on that. But I think that's what that PUC says, or the CUP says, yes. And we did talk about that at the last meeting, because we were talking, because I think you guys took a tour of the site and walked down the berm, and they were dumping that stuff already over there. And they said they weren't going to dump it in water and all this stuff, but they were going to let it dry and whatever. Yeah.
You're talking about that one line in the condition of approval that was really kind of hard to understand.
Yes.
What they meant.
Yes.
Yeah.
All mining ponds will be backfilled with material sourced on the site, except that sediment from the settling ponds will not be placed within the water of any mining ponds. And that's exactly what they did. They put it right there where this is an open pit right now. So there might be some, anyway, but they continued to wash the rock, and they're bringing it from somewhere else. And I saw trucks in there. They quit now, but because they're crushing rock and washing it. I know the stuff they're bringing from Stafford's site, because I talked to Steve Moat, is really dirty rock, you know, and that's why it's kind of tough to get, you know, what they need on it and stuff. But anyway.
Okay, you know, I think those other questions are good questions on what the status is of those things. But I think we did get a couple of the questions answered.
Okay.
And AOC, I had a meeting with Wyden and Merkley's assistants. I had coffee with them, and they are on your side, and they are also pushing.
Yep.
So it's not like you don't have some cheerleaders out there for you. It's just that they move at, I don't even think turtle speed. If there's anything slower than a turtle, that's the speed they're moving at. So I'm sorry for that, but
You can't control everything.
no.
No,
But I think that in ending, you know, I'm going to take it much more time, but
No,
I
that's
think
fine.
in ending is there's other things to the CUP other than the water. I appreciate
Yeah.
the water. I know they started on it. They're trying to address the issue, whatever. But this other stuff is important too. And if they move over to veneer, do you think if they're not following it right now, they're not going to follow it over there either?
They're not going to move over to veneer in the near future at all.
Perfect.
Until this is all rectified. I can guarantee you that.
All right.
through DEQ because
Yes.
we were able to talk to DEQ, because that's what the whole
Until
reason
that gets just.
it was moving forward in the past, is because we needed the state agency to step up to make that delineation. And we were able to do that by all three of us sending letters, talking to the governor, talking to the feds. And we really, I'm pretty proud of how we were able to get that state agency and step up and do their job.
No, and I appreciate that too, because if you go ahead and start across the street or veneers, and then you still have the problem, and this is causing the problem, you know, you can't change it once you break it. So I appreciate that.
Right.
We can look into the other complaints and
Yeah.
we'll come
Yeah,
up with some answers.
we're happy
And
to,
examine the CUP on Woodard's again. And like I say, I will look into this personally again. And I'll have Will pull the CUP and we'll look at it again.
Yeah, they were supposed, I'll go to one, they were supposed to replant. Nobody's replanted in the last few years. You should see the weeds over there. The deer hide in it. They're so tall that I could hide in it and nobody's followed any of that. It's just kind of like a moonscape.
Yeah.
Stuff. So
Yeah.
anyway, there's
Oh,
a lot of
thank you.
stuff in
I
there.
wasn't involved in that CUP. I wasn't on planning
Right.
it, so I'll take a look at it.
Thank you very much.
thank you. Anybody else from that world want to chat about anything?
Yeah.
Dick, I can't believe you're gonna be here and not have some kind of thing to say. I knew it.
But you still have to state your name, even though we obviously know who you are.
Big Simmerly. That's either good or bad, depending. Just a little up.
Where you live, you have to say where you live.
Oh, I live at 6487 Northwest Lamont.
Okay.
A little update, we were in direct, regular contact with the DEQ. They've tested about 60 wells. Knife River will not let them on their property to test anything yet. Their DEQ is working through that. The good part is they did get some funding to do the first testing. Greg told me the other day from the DEQ that we should see the test results from that data by the end of the year.
Good.
And then there will be a report.
This or next?
Yeah. 24.
Okay.
The end of December, he's at the latest January. So we should see the test results from those 60 wells. We, visited with the folks that were taking the test as a third-party company, and they said, you folks have some results out. And that was their only comment.
Well, I'm really excited to have a third party. That's something we pushed for quite a while.
Knife River has wanted to use their own testing people on their own program. DEQ has been resistant on that and says we need to have a committee of the testing, clear through the thing with this third party.
Yes.
So that discussion is going on right
Okay.
Great.
Thank you for that info.
Anybody else?
now. See, that didn't hurt much.
No.
No, that was a good news. Okay, that was a
Thank
good
you.
Christmas present.
Yeah.
Morning, Commissioners. For the record, Justin Alderman, Managing Editor of the Prineville Review. I recently addressed,
Hey, Justin, address, everyone else had to give it.
I'm going to decline in my role as a member of the journal, as a member of the press. We often face certain privacy and security concerns. But again, my reporting and my role in the community, I think, is very clear.
Okay.
I recently addressed the commissioners in regard to a public records request that we filed as part of an investigation into the Crook County's Natural Resource Advisory Committee. Our attendance at a public meeting uncovered that the committee had held a secret meeting, which was not noticed to the public. We filed a formal grievance after discovering this, literally one day before the 30-day deadline as provided by Oregon law. The grievance is not a formal complaint with the Oregon Government Ethics Commission, but is a preliminary step. The NRAC held another meeting with County Council and eventually responded to that grievance. Additionally, during that process, we had filed a public records request with the county and came before the commissioners for consideration of a fee reduction or excuse me, a fee waiver, or alternatively, an appropriate reduction. We do not feel the reduction was any bit appropriate. And to highlight that, I specifically want to show the two items that you chose to waive while giving zero consideration of reduction on everything else were clearly the most minimal elements, number 3 and 5 of that request. The first being a request for your public records retention policy as required by law, which is 3 pages, a cover, the actual policy, and then essentially your signature page. We also then, the other request was for a log for literally about a week's time period of edits made to your public meetings calendar page by county staff, because there's questions related to the handling of the notices. And we received that, and it's literally 2 pages. But we've had, so we've continued to work with county council and trying to also reduce the scope of one of the larger requests, not that I feel it's extensively large. And part of that process was to request instead, alternatively, metadata from emails, not the actual emails themselves, which would allow us to go through steps to maybe help identify and limit which emails we would like provided from the county, focused again on the issues related to the NRAC. Eventually, county council came back and, to my surprise, said that IT says we can't provide the metadata, which would be things like the subject, the time and date, and to and from as far as the email addresses. Now, I've done this for a number of years and have made more requests than I can count of governing bodies across the state of Oregon and also in other states that have never, in my time as a journalist, had any governing body say they can't provide the metadata from electronic email records. So this is extremely shocking. It's extremely, I think it raises questions about the county's process to ultimately be transparent and again, try to avoid frustration under the records law. That aside, though, considering that this all goes back to the issues of questions about a secret illegal meeting that, by the way, the NRAC has admitted to, and the fact that the chair of the NRAC did go to the extent of essentially implying that our publication and myself should be blacklisted for having raised the issue with the public and brought attention to the fact that it held this illegal meeting, which your county council responded to and even indicated that they agreed with his statements, is extremely concerning. I understand that there are concerns by some commissioners about the cost to taxpayers. But let me address again, as members of the press, and our interest to obtain this information is to the benefit of the public as outlined in the records law. And so I understand there are costs there, but the county is, I think, leading a situation in which taxpayers are already paying far too much in how you guys go about handling these public records requests. I've pointed out that it's extremely unusual that every fee waiver and reduction have to come before the commissioners, and also that even the initial handling of all public records requests still are handled by your county council. And those are fees that can't in itself be recovered. So I am again petitioning and asking the commissioners to intervene here and to consider providing a full fee waiver and reduction on our records requests. And I will commit to continue to work with county council on the production of those items to reduce it as much as possible. Our interest is not creating additional burdens, but otherwise our publication is not in a position to cover these fees at this time. And I think it will ultimately result in this information not being made available to the public, which will then, I believe, in the appropriate interests of that transparency, lead me to believe that the best course of action will be to file a formal complaint with the Oregon Government Ethics Commission against the members of the NRAC. And so the OGEC could further investigate, which will ultimately, I'm sure, cost the county money either way, to understand how everything came about. Now, we did obtain information that seems to indicate that the NRAC's secret meeting involved people from the Forest Service and the Bureau of Land Management and other potential interests. Now, the county council's response with the NRAC to us also alleged that the meeting was open to the public and that they had only violated notice requirements. But I think that's very disingenuous. How can you say a meeting is open to the public when you don't provide the public notice? And I think it's worse because they admit that some people in the public showed up, which seems to confirm that they sent notice, but only to the folks that they wanted there. These are serious issues. When the NRAC is discussing matters of public lands and the potential purchase of property by the federal government, that has been of interest from members within Crook County and has been matters that I believe have obviously been discussed by members within the Crook County government. So I thank you for your time. I'm happy to try to address any questions and continue to be transparent. But, you know, these issues are really limiting our ability, especially as a free publication to the citizens of Crook County, to provide transparency and accountability of what their government's doing. That is our fundamental role as members of the press. Thanks.
So did they say they couldn't do it? technically, or did they say that they couldn't do it because, I guess, John, is it technically it can't be done by the IT department, or it's that we're not comfortable sharing it?
I'm relaying, it's the prior, so I'm relaying what Chelsea told me, and
Yeah.
Stephen can chime in, but so we use a third-party vendor for that, for the storage of these, and her email said that their support essentially said they don't offer exports of just the metadata because the emails are stored as an individual file. So she can download all the emails themselves, but can't export a list of email details. So it's just not our only capability.
Stephen, you up for a little on the off the cuff explanation? Come on up. Yeah, you gotta come up.
Or should I swap out here, Commissioner, with that?
Yeah, you can sit next to you if you guys aren't gonna fight. Yeah.
My name.
Yeah.
Stephen Chellis, Chief Information Officer, Cook County. I don't have a ton of detail on, you know, the specifics of this request, but I do understand from the export standpoint, when you export the email, it exports the entire email, what I understand. So, you know, what we receive is basically a folder with every single email that fits the criteria under the search.
And then can you glean from that then who it was sent to and what the subject is? You can't just take off the top the subjects and who it was sent to?
From what I understand, it exports each individual email as a file, and so you have to go in each one and see. So
I don't know.
From my understanding, so and I can look in more. I would have to double check.
I think that would be very telling. I have actually some IT background, Commissioner.
Yeah.
That's why I'm very suspect of, you know, this claim, at least by the third party vendor. Sounds like that you have to open each individual email, especially if it's an electronic file. At some point, there should be some software ability to parse that data one way or another, whether each individual email is listed as a .eml file or something of you know, other relevant format.
Yeah, are you comfortable with us looking into it and giving a better explanation?
I'm absolutely open to that, but I think regardless at this point with where we're at, whether, you know, it's at, you know, still going to be at the current cost estimates that were provided, which by the way, we still haven't been provided a breakdown for each individual item on that cost. I think actually the $800 you were told last time was for all 5 requests, although I'm sure that the 2 that we were quote waived were, you know, very limited requests that would have been waived if they were requested individually anyway. And again, I think each requested item, since it's you know, quite different on each numbered request, should be given its due consideration on its own merits. And again, I think the primary concern is ultimately the emails of county officials, those on the NRAC as well as Mr. DeBoot's emails. And, you know, he's obviously the staff member who kind of oversees that committee. And again, if, you know, the county can find other ways to try to work with us, we're not interested in what might be transactional routine emails that are just, again, a bunch of spam that might happen to include some of the keywords we were looking for. But we are primarily interested in actual emails between officials between Crook County and the U.S. government.
Have we moved along with the research at all to see what generally the number of those emails would be?
Are you talking about for item number 1 on the?
Or just the fact that there's been a public records request and.
We did, I wanted to bring up, I'm trying to find the email from Chelsea. I stayed on the record, Justin, you might remember that there were X number of emails that met those criteria. She emailed me back after the meeting that the number, she ran the search again and the number was lower. So I think it was in the 2,000 range instead of the 5,000 range.
Okay.
So.
And commissioners, I suspect that, again, a lot of those emails are indeed, you know, probably irrelevant and very unlikely to be to have any exemptions under the law, especially if it's communications with, you know, other federal staffers talking about the issues of the NRAC. I can imagine that the majority of issues with the NRAC would be subject to exemptions of confidentiality under the Oregon's public records law. So again, you know, we're happy to try to work collaboratively, but I think there's very good cause here for the commissioners in this case to consider a full waiver My interest, and I want to be clear, the Prineville Review has no intention of trying to drown the county in these requests. I understand you're working to also make your own process more efficient. I have had that conversation with County Manager Van Vactor, and I appreciate the county's efforts on these things. I think it's no mistake. We're not going away. Our publication has, in the last 6 months, created a lot of inherent value for the citizens of Crook County. I think many are aware of our reporting on executive session issues, which recently prompted quite a big set of attention to citizens of Crook County regarding the school district. So we know our reporting is making a difference, and ultimately we hope helping the citizens of Crook County in a positive way. So I understand that, there's questions that we don't have the answers to either. I think the public wants them and they're entitled to them regardless of the facts and what those emails and communications may provide. And I would hope that the commissioners here are committed to that transparency of the public and would be willing to recognize here that there is plenty of good reason, considering the county has admitted to the fact that this meeting was held illegally. And I know that's a strong term to say illegally, but technically, yes, it was held without proper notice, and it was indeed a secret meeting. And I think that the county needs to take that more seriously, and I hope recognize that given those circumstances, there's very little reason not to try to be open and transparent and ensure that the public can have it. This isn't to the benefit of the Prineville Review. This is the benefit of the citizens of Crook County. Thank you.
So what do you say, John?
About which part in particular?
I mean, do you think that we'll be able to get the timeline down low enough where we can forgive the cost of it? Or is it still, do you think, going to be,
I mean, we're still at
hundreds of dollars?
We're still at 2,100 emails just for item number 1. And so,
What is the date of this supposed meeting?
Commissioner, it was just, they alleged that it happened on October 16th. We discovered it on November 13th. And then I think we filed the grievance the day after. And I think the deadline within the 30 days would have been November 15th. So
Okay,
again,
but
the day
but
before.
The date of the meeting was October 16th.
That's correct, Commissioner.
And I think calling it a secret meeting is a little bit much. I mean, I think it was I don't think they did it on purpose.
No,
Commissioner.
Commissioner.
I just don't think they, at that point, understood the laws. And so I think it's important to call it what it is it was a mistake by the board that didn't understand the public meeting laws, which in my opinion, they should have understood those laws, but that's a different conversation.
I think that's completely fair, Commissioners. And we're not alleging that it was done necessarily in bad faith, but nonetheless, the end result is that the public was denied transparency from that. They didn't video or audio record that meeting as well, which, really denies, again, the potential of really understanding what was said. There are, I understand, written minutes that were subsequently provided for that when we uncovered that meeting. But obviously the fact that they didn't go through that normal process leaves questions on, how accurate those minutes are, because written minutes do not need to be an exact transcript, of course, of a public meeting. And so again, that's ultimately at the end of the day, we'll never know exactly what was said. And that's why I think it's important for us to be able to understand through other means what communications have been going on between county officials and folks in the federal government.
Yeah, and I think also the other fact is that they've said as they move forward, they are going to right the ship, and from now on, they will start having any meeting that needs to be put in a public meeting.
No, and we've appreciated that there has been a response. I still think part of that response was kind of disingenuous to the fact that it was, we still claim it's public when we didn't notice it, right? But again, at least for the fact that we were the ones that filed the grievance, my interest is not to proceed with a formal complaint, but if we're going to be placed in a position where we ultimately aren't going to get or be capable of getting additional information to investigate, what has been going on with these meetings with the Natural Resource Advisory Committee and county staff and the federal government, then I think there's good cause to have a state agency look in to the matter, and that would be the Oregon Government Ethics Commission. But again, I think we have a better capability of really looking into and again, trying to provide transparency on what the county's role in some of these discussions has been to the citizens of Crook County. I think they're absolutely entitled to that transparency.
So last time we met, I know we haven't set a time to actually have a plan to come up with the conversation, but have you had a chance to look at what other counties do? Is this something that they waive on a regular basis? Is this something that?
So Mr. Brennan has looked into this previously, and we had a meeting about this yesterday, actually. And circling back real quick to remind the commissioners, part of his request was to two of the board members individually, and Eric has been working on responding to that request. And so I think there's some overlap on these two requests we can talk about. But instead of speaking for Eric, since he's read a lot of the other ones so far, and I haven't, I've read a couple, but not enough. You mind chiming in, Mr. Blaine?
Yeah, so I feel it would be helpful to clarify a miscommunication that I think is persisting in these kind of discussions. The county's policy does allow for waiver of fees, and not every waiver of fee request must come to the Board of Commissioners. The policy empowers staff members to waive fees if they determine that it is de minimis use of staff time, and the policy says the staff members are empowered to decide when it's de minimis. So that means that they can say this is something that is in the public interest to make available immediately without a fee. The policy also states that if it is a request that is in the normal course and scope of a job duty, that record can be provided immediately as well. Now, sometimes there are requests, like for instance, when someone asks for several thousand email messages, which will require more than a small amount of staff time to compile. In which case they are provided with an estimate of what that staff time is going to require based on the county's adopted fee schedule. The fee schedule is adopted as part of a public meeting at which there is the opportunity for public comment. If someone feels that there is merit to asking for a waiver or a reduction of fees, the county policy then allows for those large requests to be presented to the Board of Commissioners at a public meeting. The statute in question is 192-324 sub 5, which states, and I'm paraphrasing, I don't have the exact words, but a public body may, not must, may waive fees if it determines that providing the records primarily benefits the general public. There is no requirement under any law that any particular type of request necessarily merits that finding that it is necessarily in the public's interest. Who better to determine what is in the public interest than you three, who are directly elected by the general public? Your question is, what do other jurisdictions do? Many jurisdictions say there is going to be a minimum staff time for every record request. Crook County does not do that. Many jurisdictions allow for unelected public officials to make the decision to waive fees outside of the context of public meetings. That is not what Crook County has decided. Crook County has decided that the opportunity for public scrutiny of these records requests and to have that decision made by people who are elected directly by the general public.
So on the ones that did have it outside, do they share what their matrix is of how much and what the request is versus what they charge and what they're willing to? Because the way I see it is, I would like to be as transparent as possible. I understand it's difficult because it takes people's time and these things, but to me, the best option is to just get the information out as quickly as possible. And, you know, I'm not as concerned about a few bucks that it takes for those people's time.
And that is the existing policy. That is what you have now.
But it was $795.
Yeah.
That wasn't a few bucks. I'm sorry. That isn't a few bucks.
I mean, I think that's a
That
pretty nominal
frustrates.
fee, but
$795 is a nominal fee?
when you look at
Well-
the county's budget and the way that
I'm
we,
sorry. I don't feel that's a nominal fee.
yeah, that's fair. We
When we
just
have people
don't agree.
struggling in this county. You should have been where I was last night. You wouldn't think that was a nominal. Fee.
Yeah. But I also think that that's not something we can look at as a reason to not do it. And I think that's another problem, is that we're not getting the information we need to of what we can. So Eric, what can we look at when we decide to approve or not approve the waiver of a fee?
Yeah, the decision for the Board of Commissioners has to be reasonable. Doesn't have to be the only answer. It doesn't have to be the best answer. It doesn't have to be what someone else would have chosen. It has to be reasonable. And that is a broad, description of your responsibility. So I don't think anyone has ever come up with a definitive list of here are the only things you can consider. For the obvious reason that, of course, each request, each public entity, each particular detail of the circumstances may be different. The policies that I have reviewed that do describe fee waivers tend to say that each fee waiver will be examined on a case-by-case basis, and that makes a great deal of sense. I am aware of at least one jurisdiction that has a form that they fill out when there is a fee waiver request, and that fee waiver has a bit of a checklist, but the checklist specifically says these are all factors to consider. They are not elements. So there can be one factor which outweighs all of the others. I personally am not enamored of having yet another form to be filled out. Most of the jurisdictions that I am aware of do not have such a checklist. And again, I'm a little skeptical as to the utility of that kind of checklist.
Okay, so what's the plan?
So you have a reiteration of a request that you, the Board of Commissioners approve a fee waiver. The decision for the Board of Commissioners is whether you wish to waive that fee, whether you wish to reduce the fee based on what you have been presented with today. You don't have to. You can table this and say, we want to learn more information and maybe bring it back at a later date. The prior discussion, if I remember, and that was 2 weeks ago, so I may not have it exactly correct, was that the amount of fees was something more than de minimis under the policy, and that the Board of Commissioners is responsible for maintaining the public fisc and being respectful of the taxpayers' funds. The requester has the option to modify his request so that he is asking for a smaller universe of documents. And then from there, a revised record request might be provided, which will perhaps be lower. That is a routine matter with public records requests. And I would like to emphasize also that the fee request is a deposit. It's based on an estimate, a good faith estimate. And if it should turn out that the amount of time and the amount of resources spent to process the request turns out to have been lower than the estimate, the county has the practice of refunding the unused portion of the deposit. So this is not a money-making effort for the county. The law states that public entities may establish fees reasonably calculated to cover the actual costs of processing public records requests. And I am aware of no principle of law that says that any particular kind of request is automatically entitled to any kind of fee reduction or fee waiver. And I think that makes sense. There are a great many organizations that are for profit, that are very well heeled, that can pay for requests, And is it fair for the taxpayers to subsidize those businesses?
How many hours do you think you've worked on this? Finding all these other informations out, and what do you think the cost of that is?
Well, so when you asked to examine what other jurisdictions were doing, I don't know if I kept track of the time I spent compiling the information and reviewing them. I could not say. That is not something that the county is charging to any requester.
Well, but it's costing the county by using your time that would be a similar time that could be used to get the information and then just get it out and be done with it.
Well, so I think you're conflating two things. I mean, you asked, what do other jurisdictions do? And we looked into this, and that's, part of what our job is. Could we have then gone back in time and used that time to work on this request that had not yet been issued? No.
We got another question from the public. You have to come up and ask the question. Sorry. And your name and address, please.
Ashley McCormick, and I live at 5602 Northwest Green Valley Road. So this has been talked about so many times. I'm sure that more than $800 has been spent on it. Can I offer to just pay for half of it? If the county will pay for the other half so that he can get what he needs and just move on?
I think that was my point in asking how much it costs, because it seems to me like we've been spending meeting after meeting, and then we leave the meeting and we do a lot of research. And if we would have just cranked out the thing and been done with it, we probably would have saved the citizens money.
The point, Ashley, that I'm concerned about is this going to be continuing? Is it $800 this week? And then he moves on to another committee and then it's another $800 or it's $1,000. And the other thing I'm concerned about is what happens to our volunteer base, because these committees are volunteers. And after a while, and you don't go home and read a book about public meeting law. And if you do, you have no life in your, I'm sorry, you have no life. So you do this as a good faith effort because you care about this community. So you serve on the Fair Board and you serve on natural resources, or you serve on the cemetery district, or you serve on these things because you care about Crook County. So in my way of thinking is what happens when we get to where we have no volunteers for our boards. And that is my concern. And also my concern is it's $800 today. And now what happens next week? And we are doing well. We're holding the line on our budget. And there are counties right next to us that are in deficit. We're not. But I'm concerned about that because I don't want to raise taxes, because we have elderly that can't pay their taxes and are having trouble eating. I put food pantry information next to our taxpayers where they're paying their taxes. So if our elderly can't eat, I'm sorry that I'm concerned about that, but that's me. So yes, it's very important to me because I am afraid of starting a trend.
Okay, I'm just
And
saying,
that is
pay
me.
for half of it.
And you know what?
Situation.
If I thought that this was it, I'd pay the $800. That isn't the point. The point is what does this lead to? And that is what I'm terrified of.
And see, what I think it leads to is a tighter system.
And
we won't have these
agree.
issues. And that's the outcome I'm looking for. And we obviously have not had inquiries like this in the past. And it's something
We've had them rolled.
some, but I would say not.
No, and we
If you've
did
had
make
outrageous.
and we did make this decision going forward. And that's already been decided. And you're the one that's going out, unfortunately, and asking everybody what everybody else does. And so this is dragging the process on. The decision's been made,
Okay, well, then
and I concur with Susan,
make a decision. I don't
We did.
agree. I
We
think.
did.
Okay, well
We
then,
did last week.
and we're
Okay.
still
Not beat
arguing
the
about it.
horse. 2 weeks ago.
okay, I guess we'll just move on then. Go ahead.
Commissioners, just to be transparent through this process and to continually inform members of the public who I know are going to be following this matter. I will be proceeding either with a petition with the district attorney's office or a request for facilitated dispute resolution with the Oregon Public Records Advocate on the matter. And I believe it is indeed necessary for me to proceed with a formal complaint against members of the Natural Resource Advisory Committee with the Oregon Government Ethics Commission so that they can investigate and take a look. And ultimately, I'm sure they may also be interested in potentially seeking records of communications. Thank you.
All right, now on to anybody else before we wrap it up? Okay, any changes on the consent agenda?
No.
I'd entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I second that motion.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. All right, Will, what do you got?
All right, I believe the first item on the agenda this morning is the Christmas Eve holiday. I was not at work session last week, but I understand you asked that I come back with the recommendation for how we proceed with offering that as a half day on Christmas Eve. So I recommend that we declare that a half day holiday. So I would recommend we close county offices that can be closed at noon on Christmas Eve for folks who have to work and can't take that off as a holiday. I would recommend we give them 4 hours of PTO. This is consistent with our past and at least current practice of offering 8 hours of PTO for holidays, regardless of shift schedules. So that is my recommendation for this coming Christmas Eve next Wednesday. Any questions?
And
I'm good.
I'm totally good.
I will note just quickly, there's one exception that we'll just need to accommodate, and that's any specific provisions in collective bargaining agreements that may differ. Just for clarification.
Do we make a motion?
Yeah, I think you would.
I'd entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve the proposal for early closure of county offices on Christmas Eve, 2024.
second the motion.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Oh, it's Will again.
And on a related topic, I believe you have in your packet a holiday schedule for 25 and also a schedule for board meetings for regular board meetings for 2025. The holiday schedule for 2025 does include Christmas Eve, so that will not need to come back in front of you at a last minute next year. As far as the regular board meeting schedule, because New Year's Day falls on a Wednesday, our January schedule will be different than typical. Normally, the board meets regularly on the first and third Wednesdays of the month, but in January, we will do the second and the fourth before getting back to our regular schedule in February.
Excuse me. Sounds good. Any questions or comments? I'd entertain a motion.
Let you do this one.
I'll make a motion to approve order 2024-56 in the manner of establishing the holidays and calendar years for 2025 and January 1st, 2026.
I will second that motion.
Any discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Will.
Thank you, Will.
Amy?
Right. I'm Amy Albert, the HR generalist. I have 3 orders, all to make changes to the handbook. They're all around leave. So order 2024-49 is to change military leave from 15 calendar days to 21 calendar days. And in order 2024-50, in July, the county changed FMLA from rolling backwards to rolling forwards. So this is just making the change in the handbook. And in order 2024-51 is incorporating Oregon paid leave, and the language within this is from CIS.
Is this something we need to do 3 separate orders, Eric, or is it something that we can do in one?
You mean, can you make one motion to
motions,
approve
yeah.
all three? I think you could, but I guess I would say it's probably better if you just make 3 separate motions for each motion, for each order.
I want to tell you, Amy, I read these and I am glad I don't have to do this because I don't think I would be able to understand. The employees have to be very, very smart to understand all this. So I applaud them. So anyway, I make the first motion to accept or to approve order 2024-49 in the matter of updating the county's handbook concerning military leave.
Second the motion.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll make a motion to approve order 2024-50 in the manner of updating the county's handbook to reflect leave as rolling forward.
Oh, I second it. I'm sorry.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I make a motion to approve order 2024-51 in the matter of updating the county's handbook to include paid leave Oregon.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Oh,
Brian had to second it. Did he second it?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay, sorry. I say aye.
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 Thank you.
Thanks, Amy. Jamie?
Morning, Commissioners. Jamie Berger, Budget Manager for Crook County. You should have in your packet a memo from Will, our county manager, as well as a suggested order to appoint the citizen member to the Budget Committee. I don't know if you want me to kind of go into detail on the memo or the order, but Cliff Notes, no.
I know it. I
Any
understand.
questions about it?
I read it.
I understand it.
Do you?
I think we went over it at the last meeting and I totally understand it. So unless you want to do this for us, Jamie.
I mean, I guess for those who maybe weren't at the last meeting, just high level view is that,
Synopsis?
yes, a subcommittee of the Budget Committee met to review the applicants for the open position on the Budget Committee. As a result of that meeting that happened on Monday of this week, Will prepared a memo that just summarized what the recommendation is for Scott Tibbs to be the one appointed. And so now the decision is yours based on that information.
Sounds good.
I make a motion to approve order 2024-53 in the appointment of Budget Committee position number 1, with that person being R. Scott Tibbs for a 3-year term beginning January 1st of 2025 and expiring December 31st of 2027.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Good job, Jamie.
Thanks, Jamie.
Christina? Oh, or Brad? Okay.
Brad isn't here.
Well, it says presenter Brad.
Yeah.
Good morning, Commissioners. Christina Herron, Crook County Finance Director. I am standing in for Brad, who wasn't able to make it this morning. This request is for an amendment to the FLAP grant agreement that was approved in 2022. This is for the Ochoco Ranger Station Road overlay that the feds are handling for us. The only change is to extend the expiration date from December 31st of 2024 to December 31st of 2025. The project is just slower than they had planned on, so they're requesting an extension of that. We have already paid our match for this, and there are no additional funds expected to be expended at this time. However, if the project has more funding, that is in the original agreement that was signed, and we would have to provide those match funds.
Very good. Thank you. I'll make a motion to amend the FLAP grant for Ochoco Ranger Station Road overlay to extend expiration date from 12/31/24 to 12/31/25.
I will second that motion.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. John?
Commissioners, by statute, we have to contract with a domestic relations mediator who gets assigned family law cases from the circuit court. There's a system in place where OJD reimburses us for those costs. We met with them, I think 6 months ago, to make sure those costs are fully covered. But we've been under contract, same contract with an attorney named Dave Allen since 2013. That's a lot longer than we like to go without putting something back out. And so I put an RFP together this fall. This was the second time we've done an RFP that allowed e-bids. I'm happy to say this time it went off without a hitch. And so I want to make sure I thank Alex and Chelsea for that. I think you maybe have also noticed that in the past year, our RFP covers have gotten a lot better. That's thanks to Sarah Perner, who's volunteered her time to make sure our RFP covers kind of represent the professional images that we're trying to project on these. And so I want to thank Sarah for that. And so we put this one out for bid. It was out there for a month. All the usual places we advertised. We only got one proposal. Again, this was from Dave Allen. But the proposal was fully responsive. It was actually quite thoughtful. He did a really good job with it, and he's done a great job for the county for over a decade. And so I reviewed it, and I don't have any qualms in recommending that we name David Allen's proposal the proposer whose proposal was most advantageous to the county. That'll trigger the usual protest period, and then we can come back and get it executed out of court. But let me know if you have any questions. He was the only one, but it was a good proposal.
Nope.
No, how many questions?
Would you like to construct a motion?
I will. I recommend a motion to name David Allen, the proposer whose proposal was most advantageous to the county for the RFP, the Domestic Relations Mediator RFP issued November 6th, and to sign the contract out of court following the protest period.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Yes, excuse me. Another one?
Me?
Yeah.
That's you.
All right, Commissioners, the item before you was a fee schedule change, which is pretty simple. The only thing that's changing on our fee schedule is the cost for septic waste, which is increasing from 12.5 cents to 16.5 cents to reflect our increased cost now that we've lost the contract with Two Springs. I think I have Jackie on the line. This is obviously part of something bigger. There's a lot of moving parts here. And I'm hopeful if Jackie's in line, she can provide an update on her end, and then I can come back on the other contracts that are sitting out there, and then how to handle this fee change. Jackie, are you there?
She's top right.
Now can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, so Jackie Davis from the landfill. So we're still working on working our way through a resolution for the septic facility. The update that I have is more from the Two Springs aspect. They're working on finishing out their contract, which will end the evening of the 23rd. They're working on cleaning out all the tanks. They have issued their termination letters to all of the septic companies as of the 23rd, stating that they will need to receive new authorization from the county to utilize our facility here. So we will work on getting those letters issued. We've been in works with the city of Prineville to come to an agreement on utilizing their treatment facility to take our screened septic waste. They are working on a septic hauler plan, which is required by DEQ and must be approved by them. Sounds like they're hoping to have that done hopefully by the end of the week. And I believe somewhere around that first week of January, hopefully we will have a resolution as to what exactly we can do, how much we can take to the city, and hopefully everything will work out. But that's pretty much the only update I have.
Thank you, Jackie.
Thank you, Jackie.
Thank you.
So yeah, Commissioners, we'd hope to have a seamless transition here. It's we're close, but it's not going to be exactly seamless. And so we also have, so we have the IGA with the city. Their attorney Jared and I, we've worked out the contract. We have that part taken care of, but we are waiting on the DEQ side to make sure they get the full green light. And then there's also the issue that they are not going to have a meeting where they can execute that IGA until I believe January 16th. City is represented to us, even without the IGA in place, we can still take loads down there. So we can still service some customers, hopefully. The other contract out there is the contract with Muck Septic with the Sten camps. I have a phone call later on this afternoon with their attorney to go over that contract. I think we should be good there. That's what we have to have in place in time, because otherwise there's no way for the septic to get out of the landfill. And so hoping to get that in place before Christmas Eve. I think with that dollar value, that's probably, we can have county manager sign that one, so it doesn't need to come back for court, but we will see. So yeah, those timeline was tight. We're going to be close, but not perfect, but hopefully the customers aren't disrupted too much. You'll notice on this fee change, first, we need to make sure there's public comment on the fee change. The second thing is, you'll notice I put the effective date out at February 1st. That's so Jackie can send out 30-day notice to everyone. I kind of put that date out there arbitrarily, just so there's plenty of room, but I think Jackie already has the letter ready to go. So if you guys wanted to, you could bump that date up a little bit to make sure that, I mean, we just need to give enough time for her to send notice, the 30 days to expire, and then the fee can increase. So I don't think I've done the math quite right, but I think we could move it up as close as like January 21st or somewhere like that instead of February 1st. Otherwise, the county's going to be taking a little bit of a financial hit for a few days, but that is your option. So again, on this fee change, the only change in the schedule is for the septic waste up from 12.5 to 16.5. If we change it, then it has to stay at that level for at least 6 months, and then we can take another look at it, but it shouldn't affect the rest of the fees on the schedule. And so I'd invite public comment, and then we can talk about the effective date if you guys would like.
And I will also, I mentioned this at work session, but I'm going to give John a few gold stars today. When I was at AOC, I talked to the Rural Action Development gals, and they were the ones that wrote the wastewater deal over here for the city of Prineville, and they have a lot of grants. And so John wrote a wonderful overview, and I have sent it in asking for money, and we are going to see what creative ideas we can come up with to handle this in the future for the county. And we kind of have a few ideas that are going to cost about $2.5 million. So hopefully we can get something working so that we can go back and take possession. But we're very grateful for the city of Prineville for helping us solve this problem in the immediate future. But thanks to John for the overview. He did a very, very good job. So we'll hope the money comes down the hill soon.
Unfortunately, County Commissioner, but thank you. Appreciate it.
Is this something we need to vote on today?
The fee change? Yeah. So I would open up public comment, and then we can talk about the effective date.
Okay, we'll open a public comment about fee change on the septic. Not all at once,
A lot of people are concerned about this.
clearly.
Commissioners, I'd like to.
You gotta come up to the front.
Yeah, I'd just like to make that, I understand you don't have to respond, but so it's on the record. I'd like to ask why this particular item, since you are seeking a public hearing comment on the fee schedule, why didn't it specifically address and reveal to the public in the agenda that it was regarding septic issues? It just says county fee schedule. That seems pretty generic and unspecific. Thank you.
If you'd like an answer, the order is the order, and so we never mention usually which fees are being changed. The agenda item request is very clear that this is about the septic change, and it lists what the change is. And so if someone's looking at the packet, it's pretty clear what this is about.
Yeah.
All right.
It's online. It's in the agenda item request that everybody has.
So John, would you like to?
I think, well, anybody else from the public have any more input on the questions from the about the fee change? Anybody online? So the public,
We have two locations on the website. One is public notice, it's just like a public notice. The actual meeting has the public notice, the agenda and the packet.
There's just an agenda in public.
I can show you later where you need to go on the website to find the full meeting information. You may just be looking right at the public notice spot.
I don't see how someone, member of the public would.
I think can we deal with this offline afterwards? I think, because I'm pretty sure it is there. And so,
Yeah, let's deal with the matter at hand first.
yeah.
So, do you guys want to discuss the effective date?
If I could just chime in from our software and billing standpoint, it would be better if this was effective February 1st.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you, Jackie.
that's very helpful.
Thank you.
Any decision or any,
How would you like us to kind of craft this? Would you, to approve resolution 2024-52, or would we have any extra verbiage? What exactly? And obviously that it takes effect February 1st. How would you like us to craft this?
The motion should be pretty simple since there's not, we're not changing the effective date. And so, just like you would pass an order, I would say the motion.
So just, we are going to approve resolution 2024-52 as stated. Okay, I make that motion.
Second.
any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 And thank you again, John and Jackie, for all your work. I know this kind of jumped up on us.
Eric?
Commissioners, what you have in front of you is a really quite a simple order, which probably has the benefit of just making certain clarifications for the record in case anyone ever asks at some point in the future. At the meeting on December 4th, the Board of Commissioners approved an order regarding appointments to the Agricultural Extension Service District Advisory Committee. The order used the term Ag Extension Service District Advisory Board. Just to make it clear that the appointment is not somehow rendered ineffective because of that small difference. This order would memorialize that the use of the two terms is synonymous, and that the appointment is effective. As I understand it, the clerk's office is prepared, if she has not already, to administer the oath of office for these appointments. So this, I think, is just to correct a small scrivener's error. I don't think the December 4th board appointment is ineffective, but a little bit of cure is worth, or what is the phrase? Ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So I might recommend a motion then, if there's no other question, to approve order 2024-48.
So moved.
Susie,
I second it.
any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Okay, Will?
We're on item number 15, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
So this agenda item is in regard to a grievance that the Board of Commissioners received from the Prineville Review regarding the timing of the public notice that was provided for our December 4th, 2024 meeting. Specifically, the grievance notes that the notice went out at 8:30 on Tuesday morning, the Tuesday morning before the meeting, thus not meeting the 48-hour requirement for regular public meetings. In this circumstance, it appears that his his grievance accurately states the facts that occurred. The timing of the notice was less than 48 hours. Mr. Blaine has helped put together a response to the grievance that acknowledges that and describes some steps that the county will take going forward to ensure that we meet that 48-hour timeline, if not exceed it. So with that background, I'll ask Eric if he has anything he would like to add.
Yes, the particular statute that's been invoked in this process is 192-705. And when that is presented to a governing body, the governing body has 21 days to do one of three things. The first is to deny the facts and circumstances in the grievance accurately reflect the conduct of the governing body. The second is to admit that the facts and circumstances set forth in the grievance accurately reflect the conduct of the governing body, but deny that those facts and circumstances amount to a violation of the public meetings laws. Or the third is admitting that the conduct of the governing body amounted to a violation of the public meetings laws. In this case, there is an administrative rule which describes when the principal subjects of a public meeting, a regular public meeting, need to be publicized. In that case, the county came up a little short. It was published more than 24 hours, but not quite 48 hours. So we have to take our medicine. There was an error and we got to address it. When the public body admits that there was an error, then it will need to set forth the steps it's going to take in order to try to avoid this from happening in the future. And those can include rescinding decisions that were taken by the governing body at the prior meeting, or within 45 days of that prior meeting, acknowledge in a properly noticed and conducted public meeting that there was a decision made that was an error and that good cause exists for not rescinding the decisions, and that the governing body's practices will be modified to ensure that these errors do not occur in the future. So I do not understand the grievance submitted as to ask that the decisions made at that December 4th meeting be rescinded. I am unaware of any member of the general public who's asked that any member or that any item made at that meeting be rescinded. Again, the notice for the date, time, and location of the meeting was timely. The principal subjects were a little late. And again, we got to take our medicine on that. But I would recommend that there is good cause to say that those decisions made at the December 4th meeting should not be rescinded. As far as next steps, the response is to be provided to the grievant and to the Oregon Government Ethics Commission within 21 days. So that would be due not later than December 25th. When I have worked with other public bodies on this particular statute, what those other public bodies have done is they have delegated authority to one of their board members to review and issue and sign a formal written response as required under this statute. You don't have to do that, but if you do, then I think the next question is, who would that be? And our office can work with that individual. I would recommend, I think it would be ideal. It's not strictly required, but I think it is ideal if it would be a member of the board who would sign that document, and then our office can volunteer to make sure it gets sent out before the deadline. Some of the steps which the county has discussed to help prevent this kind of error. Here are my understanding, and there might be more that we can add. Devoting increased staff time to create staff redundancy to ensure the issuance of meeting notices, including principal subjects, at least 48 hours in advance of regular meetings. especially for those meetings that are near holidays. And in this case, that was a meeting that was very close to Thanksgiving holiday. Creating timeframes for county boards to request staff review of meeting notices for textual compliance with ORS 192-640 and OAR 199-050-0040. Those are the principal legal authorities regarding meeting notices. Scheduling meetings with county boards to update board members about the new county procedures, offering opportunities for trainings on the details of public meetings laws, and that each commissioner would independently review the meeting notices by a certain deadline. It is hoped then that with the adoption of these additional practices, that 48-hour deadline won't be missed for any regular board meeting. With that, I think the next step is to ask, do you have any questions, and how would the board like to proceed?
No, I don't have any questions. You have any questions, Brian?
I don't have any questions.
No, I think we rely on what your opinion is, Eric. I'm just looking over what we did December 4th.
Well, I think we also, right after the meeting, re-released the schedule. Or did something, did we not?
The agenda's been posted since the
Yeah.
Tuesday before, and in the video been uploaded and
Yeah.
decisions involved.
Maybe that's what it was, is that we got the information out to the public as soon as possible about what was going on. And I agree with you, Eric. We haven't heard anything from the public, anybody concerned about any of the decisions, so.
So if there aren't any other questions, I think the first motion I would recommend, based on what I think I've heard, is that good cause exists not to rescind the decisions made at the December 4th meeting.
So moved.
I second that.
Any discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Then the second is, how would you like to work on issuing the written response? And again, it goes to both the Prineville Review as the one who submitted the grievance under the statute and the Oregon Government Ethics Commission. Do you have strong feelings about that? I have, again, in the past, when I've worked with other bodies on this particular statute, they made the decision to delegate. You don't have to. You can discuss it here today. I have a draft document. If you do decide you want to act today, and again, the response is due on the 25th of December.
Yeah, as long as it's not going to take too long, I think we just come up with it now and get it done.
Okay.
What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I do. I agree. I wish we had the draft document right now to look at.
So I can hand out something that I worked.
But does that violate that we haven't put that out 48 hours before?
So
How does that work?
the statute does allow for additional topics to be discussed that are not on the agenda, the
Okay.
principal subjects. This is a principal subject that is on the agenda. So the first paragraph, I'll admit I'm not thrilled about. The second paragraph states that the Board of Commissioners has received the invocation of 192-705. That involves an objection that the meeting's principal subjects were not sent out at least 48 hours in advance under 192-640 and 199, or excuse me, LAR 199-050-0040-4A. They were sent out at 8:30 a.m. or thereabouts on Tuesday, December 3rd. And that is more than 24 hours, but not 48 hours for a regular meeting. Third paragraph then acknowledges that these principal subjects were not sent out at least 48 hours prior to the Wednesday 9 a.m. meeting. It discusses what the board will take, what steps the board will take to help address this and to see what can be done in the future so that this type of error doesn't occur. Fourth paragraph notes that the grievance does not ask that any decision made at the December 4th meeting be rescinded, and we are unaware of any member of the public who asked that those decisions made at the December 4th meeting be rescinded. The invocation of 192-705 does mention an ordinance that was discussed at the December 4th meeting. That ordinance was subject to a first reading, not an approval, and that there is a second reading that is actually scheduled for today. So members of the general public who have any concerns about that meeting have today's opportunity to provide any sort of comment on that. This does make the acknowledgement that is described in 192-705 sub 2, sub B, sub C, sub 1, and finds that good cause exists that any decision made at the December 4th meeting should not be rescinded. If this looks adequate to you, so that's great. If there are any sort of modifications that you'd like to make, I'm certainly open to those.
No, I think if you think this covers it, then I think we should respond as quickly as possible. What do you guys think?
No, I agree. I'm ready to move forward and clear this up. And I want to say that Sarah feels very responsible for this. And I told her many times she's not. This is on us. She works very hard, continually to try to abide by all the rules and regulations and laws, and they are forever changing and difficult. And there's no malice or intent from Crook County to deceive the public. We do our best, and we got caught here, messed up, misunderstood it, and accept the responsibilities.
Yeah, I also agree. Sarah, she does a great job, and it's just something that when you're doing all these things, sometimes things slip through the cracks, and we need to make sure we tighten the system so that it doesn't happen. But I don't think that Sarah was at fault whatsoever.
No, Sarah was not at fault, and Justin, thank you very much for bringing this to our attention. And yes, Sarah, you keep us straight. Thank you very much. And yes, I want to move ahead. Gosh, you must have given me your cough, Seth. Don't be breathing.
That's why I stole your water.
Is that it? Okay.
She-
So,
she-
do we need to make a motion?
So what I might is, so Will and I discussed.
Oh, I'm fine.
You good?
Cup of coffee in a minute.
Will and I discussed this draft response, and there might be some small diction and syntax changes that we might recommend. For instance, removing, say, the last two sentences of the first paragraph. Maybe those, strictly speaking, are not required. Will, do you have any comments you'd like to add?
No, I would just echo what Eric just mentioned about the last two sentences in that first paragraph. I don't know that they're technically necessary, and I think we can be forthright as is mostly spelled out, I mean, is completely spelled out in the letter as presented to you. So I don't have any other additional comments.
Sounds good.
So with that, what I might recommend is a motion to approve the response under 192-705, making the modifications that were discussed in today's meeting. After those modifications are made to the response, then the Board of Commissioners authorizes it to be signed outside the meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
So what we'll do is after this meeting, we'll prepare that document, get it to you guys for your signatures. And again, we'll only make those changes that we discussed today. And then our office can volunteer to send it out.
Thank you.
I know you guys have been waiting a long time for your deal. Is there a way we take like a 2-minute break? I'll make it really quick. No, not acceptable. Okay, thank you so much.
Ready? We are back on.
Hey, folks, we're back. We're back on. Thanks for the break. Okay, Katie? We'll talk about the final plat.
Good morning, Commissioners. Katie McDonald, Senior Planner. Yes, please. So today you have the final plat review for Grand Ridge 2 subdivision Phase 1. This is, it's on page 3 is our scanned version. So this subdivision was approved through the Planning Commission process in November of 2023. This is Grand Ridge 2. So although we have a Grand Ridge subdivision with multiple phases, this is an adjacent separate subdivision, Grand Ridge 2, approved through our Planning Commission process. There are a couple of conditions that are a little unique with this subdivision that are represented through the submitted CCRs, and the plat has all of the signatures required prior to coming before the board. The first phase of this subdivision is going to be the lot to the far west, the triangular lot, I believe is lot
Okay.
1. And then 2, 3, 4, and 5 are the most northern lots. That is the first phase. All dwellings, all dwellings in this subdivision, I believe, are required to have fire sprinklers, which is recorded in the CCRs. They also have reference to the county's fire ready handbook recorded in the CCRs, and those are accompanying the final plat.
I kind of think that I was still on planning and I went on a site visit on this one, didn't I? If it was approved in November of 2023.
This would have been, believe you were in the first, in Grand Ridge 1, we did a site
Okay,
visit.
Okay,
So-
I remember being out there and I remember
Yeah.
the big triangular lot and all of that.
Yeah, so Grand Ridge 1 is to the north of this. It's right above
Okay.
the CC with
Okay.
those larger lots, very very similar shapes.
Okay.
This is the southern property below that.
Okay,
And
when you first went in.
mhm.
Okay.
The one difference I will note between the Planning Commission decision and the plat is that the Planning Commission requested the continuation of numbering the lots to coincide. However, the ORS with the surveyors, because it is a separate subdivision, it has to restart at 1. So that is a discrepancy, but the other conditions of approval are all either met or represented with through signatures on the plat.
Any specific things? It looks like it's on track. Looks like it's on track to me, so.
Yeah, and Katie, I'm sorry, did you say that all the other required features of the plat have been paid?
Yes, and the plat is here.
I'm good.
Okay.
Okay, I'd entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve Grand Ridge 2 subdivisions.
I will second the motion.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
In the past, we've been willing to quickly sign it so the person can take off and doesn't have to hang out for the rest of the meeting. Are we comfortable with that?
Well, now Katie has our second thing, so do we want to do it? Do you need our?
I don't know.
Oh,
What do you
Carolyn's
think,
second.
Caroline? Do
Yeah.
you want to, do you want us to, are you sure? Okay,
We'll be quick on the second reading.
well, we'll see. That's the kiss of death there, Susie.
Well, no.
It might
Katie's
take 2 hours now.
Katie's gonna speed read.
Okay, next one, please.
So the next one before you is ordinance 347. We had an initial reading of this at our previous meeting. There is a change in the title only, which I talked to you about at the
Mhm.
first. This ordinance is a change to the zoning map, not a zoning not a zoning ordinance. So the first title had ordinance in there. The one before you today is updated. It says an ordinance amending the Crook County zoning map to adopt a zone map change for MTL 16141100000700 and declaring an emergency. So it represents what the ordinance is more specifically related to.
So first step to read it by title only.
Yeah, so bear with me if I'm being overzealous. Katie's right. When there is any kind of substantive change to an ordinance between the first and second reading, what needs to happen is that those changes be read into the record. So let me take a moment to read what the title was at the prior meeting, and then read aloud just what Katie read aloud about what the ordinance now reads as far as its title. So that is Ordinance 347, an ordinance amending the Crook County zoning ordinance to adopt a zone map change for map tax lot 16141100000700 and declaring an emergency. And the current title now reads an ordinance amending the Crook County zoning map to adopt a zone map change for map tax lot number 16141100000700 and declaring an emergency. Probably that is not the type of substantive change that the statute was contemplating, but out of abundance of caution, we've read it into the record. So next step, unless there are any other questions, what I might recommend is a motion to read the ordinance by title only. You'll just read that title one more time. And then assuming that motion is approved, open a public hearing.
Okay, I make a motion to read by title only ordinance number 347. An ordinance amending the Crook County zoning map to adopt a zone map change for MTL 16141100000700 and declaring an emergency.
I second that motion.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We don't have to read it in title only again, do we?
No, I think we've read it.
Like the
Yeah,
think we're good.
13th time.
Last minute, yeah.
Okay, good. We will now open the public hearing. Anybody in the room have anything? Anybody online? Okay. We will now close the public hearing. We now entertain a motion on the ordinance that we've read by title only quite a few times.
We have to do the whole process again.
So you could decide to just say a motion to approve ordinance 347 as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Will?
Do we want to maybe sign her plat so they can go first, or?
I tried that last time. Yeah, we can
Feels okay.
sign what we talk.
I just thought when we did the two.
Could I move your purse?
Oh, yeah, you can put everything here. The briefcase. We all three are just.
Just one.
Oh, look at that.
Just one.
Yeah,
Mhm.
just one.
Team.
1218.
Thank God, we didn't have to read that thing again. I was about memorizing it.
And then right there. I know.
Oh,
right?
man.
Oh, it's awesome.
I have to print them all over again.
Thank you, Katie.
Thanks.
If I don't see you, you have a good holiday.
Thank you. You too.
Okay.
Will?
Hey, just a couple quick updates. So I believe it was at our last regular meeting, we discussed the budget calendar. On the calendar, there's some timelines in there for adopting some fiscal policies or accepting past fiscal policies. So I just wanted to update quickly. We're not gonna be able to meet with the county treasurer until early in the next calendar year. So that we're a little behind on that. So I just wanted to provide a quick update on that. I also wanted to provide a quick update on some efforts we are making in regards to public meetings. So on January 2nd, we've invited staff who are who work closely with a board or a committee to a training, and we'll go over some best practices, some minimum requirements to make sure everybody's up to speed with current laws and regulations. I appreciate Eric's efforts in terms of trying to help organize that. That's just kind of first phase. We have some other things in the works that we'll discuss down the road. Sorry, Commissioner. I think that's all I have for you. Just lastly, I don't know when I need to announce this or when it needs to be announced, Eric. So stop me if I'm wrong, but just for the record, we're pulling the executive session under subsection E from the agenda this morning.
Great.
Thanks, Will.
Thank you.
Susie, you had a,
I wanted to say that I'm thinking maybe a month, maybe 6 weeks ago, we voted to give money for holiday partnership. And I was able to volunteer last night and go. In Carrie Foster Hall, they have the shopping thing where you come in, you list your children and their ages, and you get to go pick 3 new toys, 2 clothing items, a hat, gloves, socks and underwear, 3 stocking items, and a quilt for every family. And then the Crook County Library has a table and you can pick a book for your family. And then you go over to the Clover Building, and there was a high school class there, and they have a wagon, and you're presented with a envelope that has a coupon worth $75 to the local grocery stores. And then the high school students take you around the room, and you are allowed to select in each shelf, and there's a lot of shelves, grocery items. So you end up with a box of groceries and a bag of groceries that the high school students take out to your car. It's so rewarding, and Crook County is so giving, and it is just, the volunteers are amazing. The people that came were so amazing, and it truly is the Christmas spirit. And I am just so glad that we as a county gave money and we are lending our building. And I can't say enough about the whole process. And if you ever get a chance to volunteer there, I highly recommend it. And it was just, like I say, the high school kids, everyone, it was just a very, very good thing to be involved in. And there was a lady came in and she had cancer and she needed a helping hand. And it was very, very touching that we could do that for her. So a very rewarding and good thing that we're this, like I say, we're a giving community, and it was very, very evident. And so when I leave this meeting today, that's where I'm going again to volunteer. And I'm very glad I can do that. So anyway.
perfect. Brian?
I don't have anything. Thank you, Susan.
Yeah, thank you. And the only thing I would say is just happy holidays, Merry Christmas to everybody. And my favorite joke of the year, see you next year. What's that? Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to run real quick to the restroom, I think.
No, why don't you grab one of us afterwards? I'm going to read us into executive session. I'd love to come chat with you. How about that? The Crook County Board of Commissioners will now meet in executive session under ORS 192-660H to conduct deliberations or to consult with counsel concerning the legal rights and duty of a public body in regard with current litigation or litigation likely to be filed. Representatives of the news media and designated staff shall be allowed to attend the executive session. All other members of the audience are asked to room. Representatives of the news media specifically directed not to report any deliberations during the executive session, except to state the general subject of the session is previously announced. No decision may be made in executive session. At the end of the executive session, we'll return to open session. Welcome the audience back into the room. All right, the Crook County Board of Commissioners will now leave executive session under ORS 1926602H, consulting with counsel concerning the legal rights and duties of a public body with regard to current litigation or litigation likely to be filed. Representatives of news media and designated staff shall be allowed to attend the executive session. All other members of the audience are asked to leave the room. Representatives of the news media are specifically directed not to report any deliberations during the executive session, except to state the general subject of the session is previously announced. No decision may be made in executive session. At the end of the executive session, we will return to open session and welcome the audience back into the room.
Commissioners, on the 2H, I recommend a motion for staff to proceed as directed in executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anything else before we adjourn?
Not that I know of.
Adjourned.
Good job.